Thanks for listening to the Three Old Goalies podcast. We're going to send it right over to Boa to introduce our special guest, Butch Lauffer from West Texas A&M.
So this is a special day for the Three Old Goalies, especially for the middle of the oldest people. First, I didn't know I was going to have to do this. So secondly, today's guest is one of my oldest, dearest, and my number one football confidant in the world, Butch Lauffer from Dallas, Texas. And when Greg Deutsch starts talking to Coach Lauffer, it is going to blow your mind. We talk on this show a lot about the good and the bad and the ugly, mostly about the bad and the ugly. This guy is a world class in every definition of the word football mind, on the UEFA level, on the FIFA level, and is an incredibly successful college coach, because that's the way it works in this country, but should be the manager of Liverpool. So I am going to hand this off. And I've known Butch Lauffer since I was 18 years old, and I was 6 foot, 159 pounds, and he's 5'9", and I tried to use his ID to get into a bar at soccer camp.
That's right.
And I got arrested.
We got arrested.
So, Greg Deutsch, it is all yours.
So, Butch coaches, in case you guys don't know, at West Texas State, which is in Canyon, Texas, which is near Amarillo, Texas, which is on the western part of Texas, near right next to New Mexico. Yep. Butch, you've been doing this a very, very long time. Yep. So, give us, a little background here, because 32 years at West Texas State is a very, very long time. You've got over 550 wins, which, John, that's pretty impressive, as you could imagine. I'm still blown away by that. Over 550. I don't think we've had anyone on the show with that many wins, John, to be honest. Ryan, I don't think we have. I just want to know, Butch, as you start out here, you're born in Washington, D.C. How in the heck do you end up in Texas? So sort of take us through this little journey here and enjoy it.
Well, before we do the life and times, I just want to thank John and his buddies for inviting me on the show. You guys must be scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. So, but I just want to say it's very excited to do this and excited to be involved. But it's kind of funny. We ended up in Texas. We moved to Texas in '67. My mom is from the Texas-Oklahoma area, and my dad's a Yankee. He was born in Pennsylvania and grew up in Allentown and Jersey Shore and all that area and stuff like that. So they met at school, actually. My dad was going to George Washington. My mom was going to American, and they met and got married and moved to Texas. So I was 7 years old when we moved to Texas, and about that time, not really knowing what was going on in the soccer world, it was just kind of the beginning of the old NASL with like at the time with the Rochester Lancers and Atlanta Chiefs, and so I started playing soccer when I was 7 just by sheer accident, and I was playing hooky from school at 2nd grade, I think it was, and I was jumping out of a swing, and my backyard broke my arm, and because of that, I couldn't sign up for football. And came home a couple of days later with this form about playing soccer and signed up, and I guess you'd say that kind of the rest is history. But at that time, it was the beginning of the old Dallas Tornado with Ron Newman and those guys coming to town and stuff, and they were very, very involved in the community and just really formed kind of a love affair with the team and the players, and became very engrossed. And my dad got very engrossed in the game and coaching and being an administrator for the Spring Valley Soccer Association, and just fell in love with it and just kind of grew up with it and grew up with the Tornadoes. And it's a sad time in my life because I'm dating myself where I'm seeing like people like Brian Harvey, who just passed away, and a Wolfgang Sunholtz, who just passed away.
Didn't know that.
Mike Renshaw, who was my first really club coach, who played for Dallas and passed away. And you go, shit, you're getting old and a little scary a little bit. But I look back and really fond memories of being involved, I think, in the golden age of American soccer and how it really got started and got going. And then obviously as, the Cosmos got involved and, really changed the landscape because of the great players they were able to afford and to bring over. And it forced the other franchises either pack their bags and go out of business or try to match them. And if you sit back and really look at that period of time, the great players that came to the States to play, granted, most of them were over age or a little, in retirement, but what I found that most of those guys were really superhuman beings and were really, really wanting to give back to the game and do something positive and create a legacy. And because of that, the great Pelé ended up coming and I think just literally changed the face of American soccer. Probably because of Lamar Hunt's association with the league at the time. Dallas got the first game against New York on TV. And then we got when in preseason, the next year they played a preseason game in Dallas, the old Omni Stadium. It was pissing down raining and 0-0 till the last couple of minutes. And, Dallas gives away a free kick and Pelé steps up and scores a free kick from about 20 out to win the game and stuff. And you just don't realize what kind of impact those type of moments make on you as a young player and someone that's falling in love with the sport. And till you look back and say, wow, I was really lucky to see some of those people play live. And you're talking about the Bobby Moores, the Cruyffs, the Pelés, the Beckenbauers, the George Bests.
Jeez.
Nini Cabillas, who I had a chance to work with on the federation level. That we would go out in between federation meetings, either down in Florida or up in Portland, and it was like being in college and somebody's taking your money at pool. He would go out and take people's money on free kicks. So I bet you I can bend it here, put it there, over the wall, around the corner. And everybody would try to, sure, and the guy probably made more money than that than he did a stipend for the week. But it was you look back on it and what's really frustrating sometimes a little bit is you talk to the players today and they have no idea who the hell these people are.
Yep.
And which is kind of disappointing and but it just shows that you've got to the league, even if the MLS needs to do something to try to remember those players, because there wouldn't be an MLS without those players, and there would be an MLS without Hunt and the owners and some of those people that, as we used to say, we joke around the best way to make a fortune in soccer is start with a large one because you end up with a small one. So.
Lamar Hunt said that, didn't he?
Yeah. So.
All right. So one of the things I want to let people know is obviously you have a lot of licenses. You have the English football, you have the United Soccer A, you have the Irish Football Association Grade 1, you have the United European Football Association A from Wales, you have the UEFA Pro license from the Scottish Football Association. What, in your opinion, could you share with us are some of the major differences in the theories that they're teaching?
Well, that's a great question. If you notice, the common theme is they're all come from English-speaking countries because I can't speak another language, so I was kind of stuck. So the thing is probably the biggest differences were the attitude of the staff and the attitude of the federation that you were in at the time, and probably the biggest way to describe the difference is somebody would say, and I'm not slagging on anybody, but saying like the English had a reputation of telling you what to coach, and the Scottish or somebody else would tell you not how to coach it, in the sense of that, look, it's there's more than one way up Mount Everest, according to the great Tony Waiters. And I think that's one thing I always took away from it is, just because I didn't have your socks pulled up and your shirt tucked in all the time didn't mean you were a qualified or a good damn soccer coach. And sometimes, with the English FA, it was very stringent, very this, very that. And I think it was part of the issue was part of the time was they were trying to create a level of professionalism within an industry that really had no structure or no educational platform at the time, and trying to give credence to those people and those responsibilities, because, for a long time, a lot of those clubs, the teams weren't selected by a manager or a coach, they were selected by a board.
The board,
and the board of trustees or whoever would, basically hand the list at 5-3. Here's the team and stuff. So,
crazy.
But the biggest thing is and it's still a goal of mine. And one reason I ended up doing the pro license, I was the first American to get it at all, period, was I still have a goal to coach abroad at some point. And that really kind of stems from the experience I had when I was 18. And
don't get into that yet because you take it away. Some of the questions.
Okay,
asked,
but
I just wanted
still
to
have
hear
that
the
drive,
theories.
and to do it, to do it, you've got to have that qualification, and nowadays it's not as prevalent, but way back when it was, you were very looked down upon as a player and a coach over there at that time.
Yeah. Another thing I want people to know, in 1994 in the World Cup here, you were a member of the United States soccer coaching staff.
Yes, sir.
First, what was it like to get appointed to it? And B, share with us your role in the World Cup, because you got to assist FIFA with some, reports and things like that. So go into some detail on, that journey that you got to, once in a lifetime do.
Well, it was, and I got to thank Coach Gansler and Coach Durkin for helping me get over the nod. I'm a old Dallas Cowboy fan, and you probably guys don't remember, but in 1975 they had 12 draft choices made that team that year with Randy White and some people like that, and they called it the Dirty Dozen. Called the Dirty Dozen. And so that year leading up to the World Cup, I got a letter out of the blue from U.S. Soccer. It was signed by Coach Gansler, saying that I had been identified as a potential addition to the national coaching staff, and that that was going to be happening. And that year they brought on 12 new people, and so we kind of called ourselves the Dirty Dozen, and it was very, very exciting and very privileged to have that opportunity. And the responsibilities we were given sites that we would have to monitor for training with the teams who were coming into certain sites for training. We would have to be given interview assignments from the coaches for those teams to, we were given questions for the federation, and, just to get ideas of what they were doing, how they were doing things, what kind of problem they were having to overcome, those type of things. And then when we got to game times, we were responsible for taking statistical data from ball in and out of play, free kick stuff, substitutions, scores, all those type of things that at the end of the tournament we would help turn in and calculate, which FIFA then would start to use to help put together their major reports and everything. So it was a heck of a time, and it was very, very exciting. And just to be up close in front to see some of the great teams and great players really helped change the face of, really, again, they could make another step of changing the face of soccer in this country.
Yeah. Again, part of your background is, when you started the men's program there at West Texas State, as they went into Division II, you had 3 months to put together a program.
Yeah.
When you were the assistant coach with Randy Waldrum with the Houston Dash with the NWSL, again, you had a very short time to put together programs.
Yeah.
You've mentioned you want to coach abroad. You've put on your resume working with the Trinidad and Tobago team with Randy
Yep.
at the U17. So obviously you've had a lot of experiences trying to put together programs on a very, very short notice.
Yep.
What's been your success in doing that?
Well, that's a great question. Probably the first thing would be stupidity for accepting those posts. But I don't know. It just seemed to, my whole professional life, it seems like I've ended up taking on tasks of building something or starting something. So that's so one is I don't think you can fear the unknown. Okay. Two, you have to have, I think, tremendous amount of confidence in your ability to put groups together or teams together and to create an environment to go after a common goal. And so I think, some of the things you learn about, one was you learned about doing things of not so much worrying what people can't do, but what they can do. To me, that was one of the first things. So, I can't control what you can't do. I can control what you can do. And now how can I so that's one. Second of all is trying to put the player in the unit always in a position to be successful. Again, not asking them to do things that they're not capable of doing. You go into a college environment or a pro environment or something like that, and you start asking, a 30-year-old pro to do something he's not capable of doing. Well, to me, that's just a recipe for disaster. Because he's going to tell you to go take a hike, and you're going to get mad, and now you have frustration, and now you have walls have built up. And so trying to create things, recognize what they can do it well, highlight those things, put players in position to be successful. And at the end of the day, it was an old quote, and I forgot who told it to me, but soccer's a very simple game, only complicated by players and coaches.
Right.
And so keep it simple. In reality, I've been doing this a long time, and John and I have talked, we talk about it, and I don't know if there's really
only 6 or 7 times a week.
Yeah. I don't know if there's really any really new tactics in the world. There's really, it's, to me, it's like, well, what you see, like the clothing industry, the 70s were the bell bottoms, and the 80s were this, and the 90s were this, and or the music industry and stuff, and and so it goes in circles. But look now. If you look at a lot of pro teams now, whether it's MLS or on TV or a lot of the teams are now going back to playing a 4-4-2.
Yep.
Doing a possession-based type of style of play. Is that really anything new?
Well, it's like the German Gegen. Sorry to interrupt you, but like the German Gegenpress, and the Russians were doing that in the 80s. So they called it hunting in packs.
That's right. That's right. If you look at
bury people,
if I've got a couple of his books. The great Dynamo Kiev coach talks about the pressing way back when in the 70s and stuff, and how. And playing a 4-4-3 and how they would press out of it and why they pressed out of it. And so it like, to me, it all comes back to the common denominator. The common denominator is the player. What can the player do? What can the player can't do? And a great example right now is Everton. Over the last 5 years, they've probably been through, I don't know how many managers, and each time they get a new manager, they come in, they buy new players, and you have a bunch of players, a bunch of misfits are good at playing one way or a different way, and there's no time to create a cohesive unit, because they're not geared to play a certain way. And the poor guy now is going, okay, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this hodgepodge of players. You had Allardyce, you had the Dutch guy, you had Ancelotti, you had all these different for a long time, and now they're paying the price. And I think one of the biggest mistakes and one of the biggest things that are overrated in sports at a high level is consistency at the top. And does that mean ownership? Yes. Does that mean general management? Maybe yes. But coaching as well. You look at the great franchises in the world that had great long periods of success. Hate to say it, Cowboys for 25, 30 years. Manchester United for 26 years. Arsenal for over 20 years. The Green Bay Packers for a period of time. The Boston Celtics for a period, for 10 years, winning championships.
The Spurs.
I'm sorry?
The Spurs.
The Spurs with Pop, exactly. What did they have in common? They had great players, but they also had consistency. And they didn't win a championship every year, but they were always in the hunt, and you had patient ownership, realizing the fact that there's certain things out of control. Players form, injuries, referees screwing up, making a bad call, whatever goes against you, it's going to happen. And you look at the poor people that had to follow those people. One, and almost everyone fail. And two, it's taken forever for those franchises to get back to where they were. I forget, sorry, John, from the great Liverpool teams, which
I was just going to say, it's been 25 years.
With Shankly and then Paisley and those people,
Bear Bryant, Alabama.
Yep. And so, to me,
there are 8 Premier League managers, though, that have been fired this year.
Yep.
Like this season.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, a few years ago, we had used to still try to do a little bit. We had, when I did my pro license, one of the gentlemen that was on the course with me was kind of a guy that was on TV today named David Moyes. And we've been able to maintain a relationship, and when he was about to run out of Manchester United money, because he lived on it for 6 years, plus his jobs and stuff, we brought him into San Antonio for a coaching clinic a couple of years ago, and it was great. So personal, so open. I'll tell you anything. And he said one of the biggest mistakes he made was two. One, first of all, was to follow Ferguson, and two was to get rid of everybody on his staff. And so sometimes it's better to follow the guy than follow the legend, and to do it in that fashion. And so, because there's no patience involved anymore, and
right. That's a really good point about the boot room, Butch, because Ten Hag brought back Steve McLaren.
Yep, that's right.
United. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, he did, but it's just crazy, So I think sometimes, yes, you have to have great players, you got to have great coaching, but I think sometimes the biggest thing is the lack of stability at the top, because I think that creates calmness within the organization and keeps everybody on the same page and stuff like that. I mean, this
is sort of a great segue to hear your path to the top. So, you mentioned you played for the Texas Longhorn Soccer Club, which was started by Ron Griffith, and you played on the first American team to win a European tournament in 1978, the Munich Cup.
Yep.
So I want you to share what the environment was like going through that, because, you took a different journey to get to college, and I want people to hear that. And then, really explain, you mentioned the Dallas Tornado, but at that time, the Dallas Cup was just about to explode. And so go into what that was like at that time, because a lot of people really don't remember how that got started. And obviously, is still around with a lot of great memories and great players who played in it, who are international stars. So touch a little bit, about that. Again, I don't want to take any steam away on direction of where you want, where you went, you came back, things like that. So take us through this little journey here.
Yeah, it was, I guess it was, when I was turning 11, I think it was. At that point, you could go into so-called select soccer, and we'd moved out from Richardson to Rockwall, which is about 20 miles outside east of Dallas, and my parents wanted a little more country living and stuff like that, which killed me because I kind of figured my soccer career was over. But give them credit; they made the commitment and the sacrifice to take me back and forth for training and doing all that thing. So I owe a lot to their commitment and being great parents in that regard. But I can just remember my dad coming home one spring and saying, I guess it was about turning 11, he said, "Hey, you want to go to Mexico City?" I go, "Sure. What are we doing?" And he said, "Well, I got this phone call from this guy named Ron Griffith who runs the Texas Longhorn Soccer Club, and he's been watching you play, and he wants to take you. You're putting together a team to go on this trip to go to Mexico City." I said, "Sure, let's go. Sign me up. Let's go." Didn't have to ask more than once. So that's how I got involved. So that would have been the summer before I really turned, I guess, old enough, and then went on the trip. We went to Mexico City, had a great experience on and off the field in terms of seeing some of the countryside and going to professional games and going to Azteca Stadium and watching a game, and then came back and joined the Longhorns, and I played my whole youth career with them, starting at U11 through under 19, and because of that and the program, and because of Ron's vision, he started the club in '68 and was the first club really in the Southwest of the United States to start to do international travel and start to indulge in some type of paid coaching. That's where he was tied into the Tornado, and he would be hiring, the Kenny Coopers of the world and the George Lays of the world and Neil Cohen's of the world and Brian Harvey's of the world to come and coach the kids, and because of that, we were kind of way ahead of everybody. But Ron had a plan, and the thing, he had this plan where he would take the younger kids, and it would we would head south, where we'd either go to Mexico City or Monterey or something like that for 6-7 days, really short trip, and then he would take the middle group, and we would go to Leeds, England, and we would stay at the university there, go in the dorms in the summer, and he would hire English qualified high level coaches to come in and coach the teams, and usually there was enough for 3 teams. And so we were there usually maybe 15, 16 days, where we would play 3, 4, 5 games, and we would have training camp. We would train in the morning, train in the afternoon, we'd do some sightseeing, but it was really geared to enhancing the player development of the club. And then the cherry on the cake was then some type of long European tour as you reach the older ages of the team. And then that group was kind of crazy, because it was a mixture between a rock band, a pro sports group, and a bunch of hippies in 2 or 3 VW buses driving around Europe playing games and doing stuff. And it was one hell of a trip. Every year we did it.
Incredible.
And the teams we would play, I mean, Ron would, was fantastic. And that was part of the thing. We would end up playing either in the Munich Cup or the Helsinki Cup or the Dana Cup. And, one year we ended up playing it. Ron said it was my finest game ever as a Longhorn. We ended up playing the regional team from Bayern Munich, from Bavaria.
Bavaria, yeah.
And the kid I had to end up marking that game had just signed $1 million contract as a winger to go to Bayern Munich. And he told me that after the game. So, and we ended up winning that game, and Ron said it was the best game I ever played in my life. And so, but by the time it was done, I played over 100 international matches for the club and seen things that most people don't see, especially even if they were involved in soccer at that time. And so,
wow,
great games, great places to see, great, and Ron, in fairness, it was just not always a soccer trip. It was cultural too. I mean, one of the trips when we went through Germany, we went to Dachau to see the camps, going to places where they would reindeer milk because we were in the Arctic Circle, and have us dress up in this crazy outfits, and going to the Hook of Holland, and just stuff. He was nuts and about stuff like that. So we were very well traveled and very well educated in those regards. And also what it does, it kind of makes you very grateful where you come from, and you see how lucky you are and some of the advantages that you've been granted that some other people haven't. So in 1980, and see part of the, Ron was very frugal in everything, and I'm putting it politely. So some of the trips where we would go, we would stay with families. If we were going to stay with the older teams, then we'd stay with families or a club. And they would host us and put us up for 2 or 3 days or whatever. And so over the years, Ron built these relationships with clubs all over Europe and stuff, where we would stay and train and play games and stuff, whether it was in Germany, Sweden, Finland, whatever. And that is the whole premise of the Dallas Cup. That's how the Dallas Cup started.
Huh.
So when 1980 was the first year, so part of the requirement was for any of the local teams, they had to host a foreign team. And that was how it started. And that was Ron's, I can remember telling him, his whole idea was that he wanted to give back to all those clubs that had been so hospitable to us and over the years of housing these crazy Americans, and crazy these Americans chasing all their daughters and all that kind of stuff all over the place and stuff, drinking their beer and stuff. But so that's how it started. And so as a senior and captain of the team, we got to play the very first under-19 final, which we played over at Jesuit Stadium there, where Charlie DeLong, believe it or not, is still coaching. Ex-Dallas Tornado player. He's 75 years old, and ended up playing against another Dallas Tornado, Bobby Moffitt's Flame club, in the final. And not to brag, but scored a penalty to win the game, and still have my medal today. And, I do. And but in fairness, at that time, nobody had any idea of how the thing would take off in terms of a marketing and financial entity. And in some point in reality, it's kind of taken some of the romance out of it. And but it's been a great tournament. And you mentioned, you look at some of the great players that have come back and played before they became well-known names. The Rooneys and the Beckhams. A lot of people don't know this, but Kareem the basketball player that played for Houston and then played in the NBA, Olajuwon. He was a goalkeeper for the Nigerian team when they came over, and so he just never left.
He probably would have been pretty good as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, he probably was. And so it's so I almost have more fond memories of coming back as a coach or just a fan and watching the games. I didn't really play in it because I only did it for 1 year, And but today people don't know how that really started, and how that really, what the whole premise was, and it kind of got lost in people trying to make money out of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree.
No
So
doubt.
share with us, your journey to England and back, because when I was first talking to you, it was really interesting to hear how you got over, and then unfortunately it didn't work out, and how you came back and went through that path. So, walk us through your high school career and the college scene in your region, and then how you ended up in England, how you came back.
Okay, well, at that time, with us being one of the premier clubs in the Southwest, one of the big things for Ron, we always competed in the McGuire Cup and trying to, win the state cup and then go into regionals and stuff like that. So we had some pretty good runs with that. We were never quite successful to win a national championship and everything, but I wanted to be a pro, and I've always kind of had this wild hair up my, to not to be conventional and try to do something different and do it, outside the box. And so I talked to Ron and said, look, I want to try to be a pro. I don't know if I'm good enough, or this could be just wasting a lot of money or whatever. But he knew somebody at Rotherham United that was kind of the GM at the time, the old friend, a school friend of his. And Rotherham was in the old English third division at the time. And
What part of the country is that, Butch?
Ronnie Moore was the coach at the time. And, well, actually, it was not Ronnie Moore. He was the striker. But the coach at the time was a gentleman named Ian Porterfield, who had been a kind of a Division II, Division III player his career. But his claim to fame was that he was the goal scorer for Sheffield United when they beat Leeds United with that great team of Brennan and the brothers, Jack Charlton and Peter Lormer and those guys when Don Revy was the manager, and they beat him in the FA Cup final. So it was a big goal for the Division II team, and obviously big disappointment for Leeds. But that was his claim to fame. But he was the manager of Rotherham United at the time. And so I went over there and was there about 6 months, and so excited to get to the first day, and we're going to get professional training and all this, let's go. And so the first day you show up, and you get changed, and they say, okay, let's go, boys. They ran out to the car park, and everybody jumped in the car, and they opened the boot and threw the soccer balls in the boot, and next thing you know, we're driving down the road and around the corner, up and down, around, and then come to a screeching halt in front of this white picket fence with the grass about 6 inches high and cows. And so everybody jumps out, and I'm just following along because I'm the new guy. The coach gets 4 cones, sets out 2 goals. We play 5-a-side for an hour or so. Okay, boys, jump in the car, back you go. And you go to the shower and going, holy shit, is this professional training? And so, it was a hell of an eye opener, and you don't really realize at the time until one day you come into training and all your stuff is thrown everywhere and things like that, because all the apprentices, view you potentially as a threat.
Yeah, taking a job.
That's a job.
Yeah.
And those kids were making like 20 pounds a week,
Mm-hmm.
and they would train in the morning, and then they would have jobs in the afternoon, whether it was, laundry, clean up the grounds, paint stuff, whatever. It was, and in reality, you look back now, it was child's labor. Really, was what it was. Nike would be sued over that kind of stuff in today's world, but that's what it was. That's how they. But you come back, and you like you said, your stuff would be all over, thrown over the locker room, and and so that was interesting and a different dynamic. Hadn't dealt with that. And then, so the very first home game we had, I forgot who we were playing, and so we had to be there at a certain time and dress a certain way, and so we go, hey, okay, we're going to the locker room at halftime. So we go in the locker room at halftime, and it's a square room. It's got just a table in the middle with the biggest tea cup thing I've ever seen in my life. Is about like a cooler, 5-gallon cooler of hot tea with cups, and you needed a sword to cut the smoke. It was so smoky in the locker room. And I'm thinking, holy crap, these are professional athletes.
Bags at halftime, right?
And this was halftime of the game. And, he's effing and bliming this and that and all, the guys are standing there smoking their cigarette, drinking their tea, and they put it down, they run back out. And that year, they ended up winning the 3rd Division championship. And Ronnie Moore was a player up front who had a pretty good career managing in the lower leagues. And if you kind of keep up with that, he just got suspended for gambling problems. He was betting on his own team and stuff like that. Tony Towner was a winger and scored a bunch of goals and everything. But it was just one hell of an experience of doing that every day and playing against those guys. And at some point you just realize, you're not going to be good enough, and the reality checks in. And so I've been offered a couple of small scholarships. So I started writing some letters. There were no emails, so I had to write some letters and get the stamps and boom, send them back. And hey, is there maybe a potential to come back and play or go to school or whatever? And so I ended up going back and going to Midwestern there in Wichita Falls, and with Coach Patterson. And he had built a really strong program. He's a Springfield grad up in Massachusetts and done really well. And so I went back and played for him for a spring, and it wasn't him. I didn't like the school in Wichita Falls, and So I'm going back to England. I went to university at Leeds Poly for 2.5 years and ended up playing for the college team, and then also played for Guiseley Town in the Northern Premier League for 2.5 years, which was fantastic. And just because of that's kind of how you end up fall in love with the coaching side of it, because because the school I was going to, they made those opportunities available to take those courses and get exposed to that. And that's kind of how I got started there. And I seem to get more respect from the players on the coaching side than the playing side. So I don't know what that tells you.
So share with us how you got your first coaching job. And, you mentioned to me a gentleman that was active in your life, Dave Rubinson. So,
Yep. Yeah.
go into a little bit of that there.
Yeah. Well, kind of what happened there was, got done going to school in England and just was there almost 3 years. And again, great experience, meet a bunch of people. One of my roommates was a guy named John Armfield. His dad was Jimmy Armfield, ex-captain of England.
Oh, shit.
Played at Blackpool his whole career. At that time, and then after playing, he ended up managing Leeds United he was in charge of the Leeds team when they went to Germany and lost in the UEFA Cup final over the referee decision. And but at the time, he was doing radio work for BBC. And really perfect gentleman. And if he wouldn't have been injured in '66, he would have been the right back for England in '66. And so he would come. And at that time, when I showed up, John, his son, was on the books at United as a goalkeeper. So John would come and go a lot. He'd be going down to Manchester and training and stuff like that. So we still talk today. I mean, we're still really good friends. And unfortunately, his dad just passed away a couple of years ago, just old age and stuff. And but one of the Easter's a big school holiday for them over there, and so didn't have any place to go. So John took me home to his house there in Blackpool, and so we spent the time there. I can still remember sitting down with his dad, and his dad had this glass case where it had all his caps from England, and he say, well, this is when I played against Pelé, this is when I get Eusebio, and this is here, and all the stories. And then and it was so funny that he pulls out this trash bag, and he pulls his trash bag out, had it in the closet or whatever, starts then pulling out all the jerseys that he'd swap with, this is here, this, that. And so he would just tell stories about the games, the players he played against, and you're just going, I just was like a sponge. And he told this one story where before he got hurt, Pelé, Brazil had come a year over in '65, '64 to kind of do a lay of the land tour and stuff like that for some games before the World Cup in '66. And so they kept hearing about this young kid named Pelé, this super player, Pelé. So that's all we heard about. So Jimmy was a right back for Blackpool in England. And so he'd go out there playing and play, they have some one-on-one confrontations, and send the balls, bouncing around off his shin, off his knee and stuff. And then, so he comes in at halftime. He goes, hey, this Pelé kid, I don't know why he's so special. He's not that good. And then after he realized that Pelé would dribble up to him, play a 1-2 off his shin, and get the ball back and dribble past him. And he realized he was doing it on purpose. And so he said that he had a whole new level of appreciation of his ability and stuff. And so it was classic, playing who would think of playing a 1-2 off somebody's shin, off the opposition? That's classic. So,
wow.
But so that I got exposed. So while we're there, we did at that time, there was only 2 coaching courses that the FA did. They did a prelim and a full badge. So while we were there at Blackpool, they had what they call a prep course. And a gentleman that you guys might know, but Dick Bates, who just passed away a couple of years ago, he used to be the manager of Boston and United. And he was part of that group that came out later, the teachers that kind of took control of the FA and stuff. And we did this prep course to help prepare to take the full badge. And it was just brilliant, again, the guy did such a great job. Okay. this is what I want to do, and you just fall in love with it again and more and stuff. And but the problem is I couldn't go any further because I wasn't a British passport holder. And so that forced, if you wanted to go any further, that forced me to find different alternatives, like the Irish or the Scottish, to do things differently. And like I said, that's kind of how it went in that direction. So, but I can remember when I went to Belfast to do the pro license, that was kind of crazy because you flew into Gatwick, and at that time, as they call them, the Troubles were still Troubles.
No joke.
And so you go into Gatwick and you go, okay, go to, look at your watch. You got look for the flight for Belfast, and has the signs, and the further you follow the signs, and the further it goes away from, and there's less people, and there's less people, and then there's more soldiers, and there's more soldiers, and there's less people, and there's more dogs, and you're going, where in the hell am I going? And so you get on the plane, fly in, and people were fantastic and friendly, but I mean, it was like a war zone. I mean, we were at St. Queen's College up on the hill, and the British soldiers would be in formation, jogging around the town, and there'd be a helicopter flying over the field, just sitting there the whole time watching what was going on, taking video of all the movements of the IRA and everything, and you just going crazy, man. It was just totally different, but it's changed now. But it was kind of intense at that time.
Wow.
So anyway, so I went to England, came back and got involved in the oil and glass business and was coaching for the Longhorns, and had passion for the coaching, didn't have any passion for the oil and gas business. And at that time was the beginning of the Title IX boom. And so Coach Robertson called me and said, hey, they're going to hire me full time. And then, well, what happens, I came back first and went to finish my school at TCU, graduated, and then went to the oil and gas business. And then a year later, Coach Robertson called and said, hey, we're going to add full-time women's team, full-time men's team. They're going to hire me full-time. They needed GA. I needed GA. Do you want to come back? I said, sure. So I went there and helped Coach Robertson work with the men's team, but help them build the women's program from scratch. And then after that, I had done some work with Roy Reese and the other under-17 national team and Bobby Howe, and sleeping on hotel floors when they were putting together national teams. And when I graduated, he called me, hey, he was working for the Texans down in Houston, and said, hey, they're looking for another trainer. Would this interest you? And I said, sure. So I had to eat and support myself. So I went down and took that job. And then in 3 years, we rekindled the club. We had 800 kids involved, 12 full-time select teams, and we had two to three full-time trainers that we had hired and stuff. It was really going in the right direction. And then I kind of fell into the WT job, and so I'm still here. So.
Yeah. Now, John had shared with me when he asked, hey, can we get Butch on? And I said, sure. What do you think one of the special things he has? He says, oh my gosh, he's got some Pele stories. So I'm hoping, here at the conclusion, you can share some of the Pele stories that John has been talking about.
Well, the shin one I'd forgotten about, but that's one of the first stories Butch told me, I think in like 1987. That just crazy.
Well, it's he became an idol for me, and so like just some of the stories already told. Where I got to see him play in Dallas in the rain, and probably one of the biggest things for me personally was after I'd been here a couple years in the job, the elder Twillman, who used to work for Umbro, he was our rep. And so that year, I don't remember what year it was, that year the convention was in St. Louis. And so he goes, hey, Butch, he says, you come to the same for the convention? Yeah, I'm coming to the convention. Oh, great. He says, the rumor is Pele's coming to the convention, and because of Umbro, and he's an Umbro guy and all that stuff right now, we're going to have this special party for Pele, and you're invited. Here's some tickets. So I couldn't tell you where we went. It was kind of a small, intimate place, maybe 50 people, maybe 60 people, maybe. And if you've been to the conventions, I'm not telling you anything different, especially the early on day, a lot of drinking and people having a good time. And so he Umbro kind of does their sales pitch and, the dog and pony show, why you should buy this boot, why you should buy this jersey and all that stuff. And then, special, and then we have this special guest, blah, blah, blah. And they bring him out and I just lost it. I just broke down and I just bawled like a baby. And it was like, you could just reach out and touch him. I'm going, holy shit, I'm touching Pelé. And, so it's really not a funny story, but it was such a emotional connection that, it was almost, for me, it was almost like a religious experience, that I'm touching God.
Exactly.
And and I'm sure he thinks he does, and God rest his soul, but the amount of goodwill he did around the world for people and how he changed a lot of people's lives and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out who was standing to the friend of mine was standing next to the time. I just lost it. He's put his arm. It's okay, Butch. It's okay. We'll be all right. We're having another drink here. We'll be all right. But it was just that, and I just been very fortunate, and we've been pretty successful here. We've ended up having, we've created a really good environment here with facilities for our players, and we play at a pretty high level. We've produced about 20 professional players, and now we've had, some national team kids come out of here. And Davey Arnott's probably our most famous player, who's now the assistant at Austin, but he came out early in 2000. He was a Bob Gantzer draft choice from Kansas City and ended up becoming captain of Kansas City, and then captain of Montreal, and then captain of DC United. And we found this kid in Nederland, Texas, which is a small town outside of Beaumont. And, most Texans don't even know where Nederland is. And, but he's done a great job. And
Wow.
So we've been fortunate. And but again, it comes back to, you have to have strong leadership at the top. You have to have strong presidents and ADs that recognize the value of investing money in infrastructure and scholarships and things like that. And people ask me why I'm still here, and the best answer I can give them one is they just keep making it better. And
The facilities are unbelievable.
we're so fortunate. We had a kid this year just graduated. His dad is Marco Babel, Babul, who's been worked in the Premier League at West Ham and is Israeli national team coach and stuff. And he came at Christmas time last year to look at the facility, just see his son and everything. And he's going, holy crap, Butch. He said, this is better than any of the facilities in Israel for the pro teams. And we're just very fortunate. And the thing is, too, I'm a big believer in education. And, for a long time, we were doing these international courses here in Canyon and Amarillo. And some of the people that have come through this town that people be freaking out about, the high level of soccer people that come through, that have been here. And they love coming here because they can walk down the street and nobody messes with them, or they can go do things and stuff. And we've had Craig Brown here. We've had Jens Bengsbo, one of the biggest fitness experts in the world. We had Alan Hodgkin, who was a big-time goalkeeping coach for Man United here. Fritz Bischoff, that was on Beckenbauer's staff when they won the World Cup. Tommy Muller-Nelson, who I met on my pro course, was the assistant manager at Rangers and was the international scout for United. His son played here for us for a couple of years and stuff. So we've been able to tie into really kind of a cool soccer environment here. So it's been great.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, I'm gonna shut it down here over to Mr. John Boa's rant. So I'll throw it over to you.
Why do I have to always follow the special guests?
Well,
It's called show format.
Man,
Thank you.
And
go.
John, because you're special.
That's it. For the uneducated, because we like to educate people on this show, the Texas Longhorns are an old original, I would say, Scott Gallagher, St. Louis, Green and White, Chicago, Nomads or Surf, California, Texas Longhorns, Dallas. Probably one of the reasons I got to get out of Mississippi was because we would go 6 hours to Dallas and, we'd get shelled. Seriously, we under 16s, we play their under 14s and lose 7-1. And then I went to TCU for ODP, and that's where Eric Vaughan found me at ODP and getting shelled by fucking North Texas. But a nice little caveat to Mr. Lauffer, too, is he coached a 3 old Goalies family member, Mark Dodd, at TCU, who transferred to Duke.
That's right.
Oh, a little trivia there. All right.
Played for Eric Vaughan, and daughter was the goalkeeper on the 86 national championship team. So Butch is part of the family, yeah. And the Dallas Cup thing, for those of you who don't know, I worked there when I was doing Lotto marketing bone, I think in 96 and 97. We spent like $500,000 on that thing. And the teams, so we got AC Milan to come over because they were a Lotto team, but Ajax was there. That's where I met Franz Hoek, who introduced me to, and it was like Butch said, you're sitting there and I'm watching these under 17s, and then a year later I'm watching the Serie A and this kid's playing right back for fucking Inter. I mean, it was a truly world-class event. I haven't watched it. It was on ESPN on Easter Sunday. The under-19 finals on ESPN.
Yeah.
High quality. And then, of course, the Texas boys would rig it, so they got to play Ajax and AC Milan. but Butch is right. That golden age, the 70s. Think about Europe and America. Anyway, I didn't do a lot of prep this week for the rant around global football because I worked so hard on my top 5 songs.
Okay.
when you hear my top 5 songs, Raber and Bone and Ryan, you will know why my rant around global football is so truncated this week. But we will skip that for now. We'll talk about European footy. I don't know anything about MLS until Ryan just told me that the NASCAR Derby was won by Atlanta and Charlotte.
Yeah, 3-0.
Yeah. So there's that.
We'll cover a little bit of that real fast at the end. Yeah.
You are the expert on real estate. I'm not. So you guys can talk about the MLS. The Spanish league, of course, always top heavy, but I think Barcelona's pretty much got that wrapped up. The 3 teams that are going down, nobody really cares. I don't think Real Madrid is going to catch Barcelona, but it does tell you a lot about the level of England. We talk about, Real Madrid just smashing Liverpool into dog doo-doo 5-2, and then they got to go down to Spain, Real Madrid, and play them again on Wednesday, which is a fruitless game. But Barcelona is going to win that league. Italy, which is cool because we like Diego Maradona on this show. Napoli is going to win the Italian league. I don't know if anybody here has ever been to Napoli, but it is not a place you want to be stuck outside in the dark. It is the worst city in New Jersey type mob scary. And I have a lot of New Jersey buddies, so that's not an insult. But it is a dangerous, crazy town, and they are looked down upon by the Romans and the Milanese. Culturally, is what you rednecks. So I always like rednecks, of course. Liverpool, Napoli, Vicksburg, Mississippi.
We'd fit right
respect.
in.
Yes, that's right. That's right, Rabes. Freaking Southern boys. And then what is kind of weird is because everything revolves around Liverpool for me. Sampdoria is probably going to go down, and you remember Graham Souness, who's the captain of Liverpool, played at Sampdoria. Butch.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of those English guys, famous English guys, went down to Italy. But anyway, and then Germany, insert whatever you want there. It's Bayern and Dortmund, right? The feel-good story in Germany, of course, is this FC Freiburg.
Yep.
Where I think we mentioned this before. Who's the Cosmos goalkeeper? Hubert Birkenmeier was from. But they're in 5th place. They're pushing hard for the Champions League, but Bayern's going to win the league as they do every year. And then our boy, Klaus Butchie is at the CEO of Werder Bremen. And I think Butch is sending some players over there soon, aren't you?
We are. We're sending a couple guys over for preseason, and we're waiting them to see if they're going to have any guys free that they don't sign, coming out of their academy. So we're holding back a little money in case that happens.
That's wonderful. He Klaus is Werder Bremen's. What's that?
Should tie into the squad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll have to tell Butch about that. I forgot. Pat Johnston. But anyway, but Werder Bremen's sitting, I think, 11th. So they might not even make it to the Europa League. But again, and then in France, as always, who gives a shit? Paris Saint-Germain spends how much money on these guys? And they have what arguably the best player in the world right now and one of the top 4 to ever touch the football in Messi. And they can't get past the round of 16 in the European Cup. So I put them in the level with it's an easy league. Mbappe's going to have to leave, hopefully, and go to England so we watch him play in a real level with, like this Holland freak show. That would just be wonderful for him to be, end up at a big club.
It's over 7 million euros a week.
Yeah,
their payroll.
Yeah, it's and France has the special tax bracket for celebrities and the football players go under that, so it's a lot lower than England. You music lovers out there, since we are doing a music segment later, the Rolling Stones made a double album called Exile on Main Street in France, protesting the 70% tax they had to pay in England. But that's the allure for France, and plus you don't get kicked. But now let's talk about real football. So this is so cool. So if you talk about England, you're talking about hardcore football, and the reason I don't watch MLS, the bottom 9 teams in the 20-team English Premier League are separated by 5 points. The bottom 3 go down to the championship, which is their AAA baseball, when they'll come up. So that right there, the level, you cannot take a day off. Just look at Liverpool losing to Bournemouth. Look at United 0-0 yesterday. There are no days off in this league. And I'm telling you, remember 2012, Ryan, you're the date guy, but Guerrero scored the goal with no time left, and they won the league on the last kick of the season for Man City. The best part about that was all the United players had to watch it on TV. So they nudged United on the last kick of the season. And then last year, Liverpool was in first place with 16 minutes left, and City scored 3 goals to beat Villa. Thank you, Steven Gerrard, 3-2. But this April and this May, especially, are going to look like June 6, 1944 at Omaha Beach. It is going to be ugly. And it is literally going to be the second half on that Sunday. Those 9 teams. Now, I think 11th through 7th is separated by 4 points. Villa's not going to push to get into Europe, but then it gets easy from there because you have 6 points. Or let's see, 6th through 3rd is separated by 7 points, and nobody wants to finish fourth. Liverpool's terrible. Newcastle's not any good. Spurs, who knows who's going to show up for them? And the league's basically over, right? It's going to be City or Arsenal, and Arsenal's got, a 5-point cushion now, but nobody's catching those 2. And this is my argument. I'm so glad Butch said that about continuity at the top, because everybody's been blowing Ten Hag since he's been there. I mean, they're only 8 points above Liverpool. They're 16 points behind Arsenal. Okay? And they're 8 points above Liverpool, and the worst season Liverpool's had since 2000? So it's ridiculous. I mean, these guys are not Jesus or Allah or, anything else, the Easter Bunny, anything else fictitious. But
yeah, John, they're just playing just the tip.
There's no difference in Easter Bunny and Jesus. We'll get to that on another show. But that struggle for that last Champions League spot is also going to be a very interesting weekend in May. Just going to be just wonderful. So that's why it's the best league in the world. They got more players are coming next year. They're talking about getting Klopp out of there. He's only been there 7 years. It's ridiculous. So that's kind of my truncated European spin of the week. And then because I'm really saving my big guns for the top 5 best favorite John Boa songs of all time. Back to the studio.
Hey, can I throw in one thing? The Riverhounds got a draw last night against Birmingham, so good for Bushy and his new club.
Oh, the Pittsburgh. Yes, Johnny Bush. Yes, and you notice I didn't mention anything about Klopp not going for 2 against Manchester United. It would have been 8-0 after they scored that touchdown against those motherless fucks from Manchester. So,
hey, Braves, what was the attendance? Do you know, or could you?
I do not know. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
So,
all right.
so what club is
the Pittsburgh attendance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look that up. But
Is that the top level of the USL that they're in?
yes.
Yeah.
But they call that the championship too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I had
He's the head coach.
hey John.
Bob
John
Lilly.
Bob Lilly.
Bob Lilly, he played for the Cowboys. Anyway, but I had John Bush for his Pro B license in Cocoa Beach.
Forgot about that.
Tell you what a nice gentleman.
The Cocoa Expo.
Cocoa Expo.
You
The
can see
dorms.
space shuttle take
The
off.
dorms.
Big
Man,
dorms.
Yep.
that was the regional team before they moved it to Birmingham, and that was an interesting place.
Yeah, when the roaches were bigger than the alligators. So,
Yeah, well, they call them palmetto bugs down there because you can't say roaches.
Okay. Especially when you walked in the canteen.
Yes, no doubt.
So that game was played at Birmingham. So I'll have to dig for some statistics there.
Hey,
but-
Butch, for the 1994 World Cup, were you in Dallas the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, so they played the Cotton Bowl.
Yes.
I think I came down and we watched the game together. I was in Chicago, but okay. No, that's right.
Yep.
So freaking hot.
It was.
Oh.
And we had to wear suit and tie the whole time.
No.
So,
All right, Brian, we're throwing it back to you here.
I'm looking up stats. You guys killing me with what's the attendance. Tried to find that attendance from that match last night. The draw between the Riverhounds and Birmingham Legion.
Because that league's getting some good numbers, aren't they?
They have been for a few years. Pre-COVID, they were really seeing a spike in attendance. And it helped that you had Cincinnati selling out every night, essentially. Before they went to the Realtor League, as you say. But yeah, I mean Birmingham, their stadium seats like 47,000. I'm sure it wasn't a sellout, but it was probably a pretty solid attendance, I would
They
guess.
play at Legion Field?
But
Yeah, probably in Hoover.
yeah. But I can't find it right off the jump. Music for the show is provided by the Floodgate Operators. Be sure to check them out on Apple Music or Spotify. The Three Old Goalies are brought to you by thesquad.com because everybody loves a W. Check out the squad for all your recruiting needs. Yeah, so all right, so I challenged everyone on the show this week to find their 5 favorite songs of all time. Mainly because it just lets our listeners kind of get to know our hosts a little bit, and sometimes it's fun to get outside of the penalty box, so to speak, and think outside the box. Boa, you want to go last? Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Because really, the only thing that matters, it's a distant second place, but football is all that matters in the world, well, other than your family, right? So football, and then music is second. Other than that, I mean,
okay.
what else is there?
Well, and that for me, it's very similar, right? So, I'll start if you guys don't mind, because I know that some of these are going to catch people off guard. But I do want to share EVs as well, because he sent his rather quickly.
Yeah,
within
that's the whole thing, right?
Within like an hour.
Well, EVs are easy. They're all Jimmy Buffett songs, aren't they?
No, they're not all Jimmy Buffett songs,
them are.
but there's 2 of them. But it was funny. So Evie and I actually share one. Rabes, is that a World Cup ticket?
That's a World Cup ticket from 1994 Boston. I saw Maradona's last game.
Nigeria?
Go.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's the one he scored.
Argentina versus Greece. Batistuta had a hat trick,
Yep.
and Maradona hit a penalty, and
yeah, because he was
Nice.
because he was
Nice.
supposed to. He was supposed. They were going to play Nigeria in the quarters in Dallas, and that's when he got popped for the narcotics.
that's right.
He was buying cocaine from the Argentinian MISL players.
He said 94 World Cup because when Argentina won it, I went and found this and was like, oh wow, that's
Yeah, hang on to that one.
Yeah, hang on to that one.
All right.
All right.
Good job.
So favorite songs of all time. So there's no qualifiers, right? We said just your favorite 5 songs. I know for Bone it was super hard to break it down to 5.
It was.
Butch, how did you do? Was yours an easy 5 list, or
It was a hard
Okay.
list actually, but
all right?
It's almost impossible.
I Yeah. So Bone and I talked for, I want to say we talked for about 35, 45 minutes about it because like I shared with him two of my favorite artists of all time are Michael Jackson and Prince. And none of their songs are in my top 5. Like, but I would tell you catalog wise, like I really like their stuff, right? So the one that Evie and I shared actually was Come Monday by Jimmy Buffett. He also had Jumpin' Jack Flash by the Rolling Stones.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Wipeout by the Safaris.
There's got to be some Beach Boys in there.
Oh no.
No.
I thought the same thing too as I saw the first two and went, okay, am I gonna get like In My Room? What are we gonna get from the Beach Boys? Like, who are we at? Then Harvest Moon by Neil Young.
All right.
And then Growing Older But Not Up, which pretty much sums up Evie's personality to me.
So we got two Jimmy Buffett songs in the top 5 for EV.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Because that was Jimmy Buffett as well. But tell me that one, it doesn't perfectly fit the EV that we know and love. Like, I was like, all right, I could see that.
So this is a true story. When I was in high school, I was listening to Bare Naked Ladies in the car, and it was lying in bed just like Brian Wilson did, and he yelled at me for basically speaking ill of the Beach Boys.
Of the Beach Boys?
They're not speaking ill, man. Like, we're good.
No.
And he was so mad, and I think he killed me at training that night. It was really not good.
Any excuse.
You're doing suicides the whole time.
Oh, no. It was, yeah. Up, downs, up, down,
Up, downs,
up, down,
up, down, yeah, up, down. All right, so my list had Come Monday on it as well. By far one of my favorite songs. At Last by Etta James, which is an oldie. Which you see Bones' face if you're watching the, because he would have not expected that one at all.
I didn't even know you know Etta
Your
James.
wife appreciates it, I'm sure.
It is one of my favorites. And I am kind of shocked that it made the list because I thought maybe it wouldn't, but it's like right in there, like 5, 6. Please Come to Boston.
Oh, good one.
Wow. Who's saying that?
Well, I like the Reba McEntire version,
There you go.
but Dave Loggins was
Dave Loggins.
the original artist on that.
Of Loggins and Messina, right?
I believe so.
I think
That sounds right.
Look that one up.
Boston.
Yep, that's the one, Butch.
Good one.
And then I knew that I had to get some Notorious B.I.G. in here somewhere, because I knew that Bone was going to expect some of it, and then Raber brought it up pre-show. But Been Around the World.
You mean Jim Master Jet?
So Been Around the World, which was on the No Way Out album with Puff Daddy and the Family.
Yeah.
Notorious B.I.G. was featured in that post-mortem. And then one that I know Bone is not a fan of at all, The Man Who Sold the World by Nirvana from the Unplugged album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. I think that's probably just because of my age.
And who
I think
wrote
everybody that is around our age, Raber, had to like.
Yeah,
like
I'm with you. I
Do you
mean,
guys know who wrote that song?
I've got Pearl Jam on mine, so it's fine.
Do you guys know who wrote that Nirvana song?
The Man Who Sold the World.
Yeah.
I want to say it was David Bowie.
You can say that because you're right.
Whoa.
Okay.
Bring it. All right, let's have our guest, Butch.
Okay, I'm looking at my list here. I sent him into us. I forgot him, but I have.
It's okay. I got him here. If you want me to go.
Yeah,
through
what,
them.
you mind reading them out?
No problem. One of the greatest songs ever, "Leaving on a Jet Plane."
Yep.
Wow.
John Denver.
Yep.
Also Joan Baez.
One
I
of
sing it to my kids when I leave.
Yeah.
Nice.
one
It's a great-
song. This song almost cracked my top 5, but I figured it would be on somebody else's. American Pie, Don McLean.
Yep.
Right on.
Bone, you'll appreciate this next one because we talked a little bit about this on Saturday. Tainted Love.
Oh,
Off cell.
oh, yeah.
Soft sell.
That's
Yeah.
solid. That's
Yeah.
solid.
And then my favorite Rod Stewart song ever is on Butch's list. Maggie May.
Oh, I had in my top 50. Every picture tells a story, don't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Red Rod Stewart was a useful football player too.
yes,
Yep.
Watford.
Yes.
Yeah.
Celtic fan.
Yep.
And
big
then his final one on his top 5 is My Way, Frank Sinatra, which is a standard, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
well done.
a very,
Well,
very,
if I-
very solid list there, Butch.
If I could tell you a quick story about the Don McLean one when I got to see him live when I was going to school in England. He was doing just a countrywide acoustic tour, and he he was doing like school gymnasiums and stuff like that. And so we went to Huddersfield town, and it was just him, a stool, and an acoustic guitar, and he did the whole concert like that. It was unbelievable. So
Wow.
I saw Clapton that way.
yep.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was by far the best show I had ever seen. And it was a very small, intimate setting for the Clapton show.
Yeah.
What's that Eric Clapton joke? He would never let a bag of cocaine fly out a window. Because didn't his child like fall out of the 30s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right, Rabes, you're up, my friend.
So I went old school, new school, and all of it has meaning for my family. So, Rye, I send it to you. Do you have it?
I do.
Okay, now hold on. Rabes, were you able to do it quick? Like, what was your you heard it took
Based on this list, there's no way this was done quickly.
Oh, not done quickly.
There's no freaking way.
Okay.
There's a lot of edits. I'll even hold it up. There's a lot of edits. Like a lot of them.
No, that's not, I understand it. All right,
Yeah.
Ryan, give it.
But
right.
you have to realize too. So let me preface this: our family listens to music all the time.
Yeah.
And in the kitchen, it's with the kids. I have 14, 8-year-old. We listen to music all the time. Amy and I are very music. So we did the best we could based on time constraints, but I like the list.
5 songs is hard.
It is.
Okay, so Wild Horses, the Rolling Stones with Dave Matthews.
Yep.
Yep. Amy and I danced to that at our wedding.
Have you heard Wild Horses, the Rolling Stones with Florence from Florence and the Machine?
I have not, but I
You
clearly thank you for getting me late tonight.
Yes. Yes.
Are the Graham Parsons
Yes.
version? The Graham Parsons.
You are welcome. Just don't say my name in the middle of it. You'll be all right.
Look up the Graham Parsons version. Yeah.
Ryan, that's a rule we have. Sorry, it's just
Oh, man.
Oh, Rabes.
This is so good. All right. Just Breathe by Pearl Jam, which I appreciate. As Bone knows, Pearl Jam, those Seattle bands, it's an age thing.
it's a generational thing.
Nothing wrong with
If
any
Raber
better.
didn't have a Seattle band on his list, I would call bullshit.
Nothing wrong with
We were surly with bowl haircuts and one earring.
Mhm. When I had hair, it was my left ear, by the way. So Hurricane by Luke Combs, which I'm sure not everybody on this call knows.
Well, I'm Southern.
I'm more
so-
familiar with the Bob Dylan Hurricane.
But I'm Southern. I mean, I'm adapting to Ohio very
That's a
quickly,
good one.
but I'm
Oh,
still
yeah.
Southern.
It is a good one. The one that I know came on this list, and I knew this is the one that threw me, and I said, I love this song, and it took him a long time to put together this list. The Bones by Maureen Morris. If the bones are good, it
No clue.
don't matter. Such
They
a
don't
good
know
song. They don't know
It's
it.
really good.
It's so good. So good. And then Burning Man by Dierks Bentley. But a very, very solid list, I have to say. Like
Right on.
that Maureen Morris song, like when I saw that on your list, I was like, he took this seriously. Like I knew.
Well, I mean, I was being judged pretty wholeheartedly. We did it together. It was a team effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bone. Bone and Boa. Listen to both of the last two. Those are good songs.
So, for the record, for anybody that's listening to the show or watching the show, there is a public playlist on Spotify with the songs from these lists.
Oh.
So you can actually go out and listen to all the songs that we've talked about along the show. So we'll have it, and we'll link it in the show notes, and we'll put it out on our social media pages as well once the show goes live.
Okay, John.
So, all right. So, Bone,
I have an interesting thing, so I'm going to show it. First, I didn't know this, which is good thing because you guys are not going to believe it. So, first, a shout out to EV because one of his groups I did this for, and Rabe, we just found out. Okay, so in college, if you guys remember the Tangerine Bowl in Orlando, Florida, they would host concerts, and a very dear friend of mine named Mark Stell, who still is alive and down there. And he said, "Hey, you want to go work some concerts?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "You get paid, you go in the night before, and you take some money, right? So people can park." I'm like, "Okay, then what?" He goes, "Well, then you go home, you get a few hours sleep, then you come back and you work the gate. And you're patting people down to let them in. So, if you find any guns, knives, weed, alcohol bottles, that's what you're going to find." And I said, "Yeah, what happens if you do it?" "Well, your supervisor will tell you to put the unopened in one big garbage can and then the opened in another. So at the end, when all this is over, you divide it up with your group and you'd have, I don't know, 5-6 bottles. You'd have, if you remember back then, you couldn't bring cameras in, right? That was, not allowed. And so people would forget cameras. So you'd take cameras home. So you did this, you loved it. It was great.
I didn't hear anything about what you did with the weed.
No, the weed, the guns and the knives you weren't concerned with because you wanted, all those booze, you're a college student.
Uh-huh.
So very true story. All right. So this is a shout out to Raves and EV. All right. To start.
Oh my God.
Yep. I don't know if you can see it, but that says Rolling Stone Security.
There you go.
Holy shit.
How about that shit? Okay, and I didn't buy this shirt, all right? All right, so wow. I have 2 more. So I did Bob Seger with Molly Hatchet.
Okay. Molly Hatchet.
I did Hart, Blue Oyster Cult, Cheap Trick.
BOC and Cheap Trick?
Yep. Orlando. How about
How do you keep this shit?
Now, I don't know if you can see the opening group.
I just see your butt right now.
Oh, I just see your ass. That's not good for you.
The opening group for the Stones were Van Halen.
Unreal.
True story, as we always like to tell stories on the show.
Unreal.
So Unreal is right. Here's the unreal story about that show. So I was working the early morning shift, and an old guy comes up to me and hands me $100 and says, "Hey, could you get me some donuts?" I'm like, "Well, how many?" He goes, "Like 20 dozen." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." So I have a green Dart at the time. I pulled a like Dunkin' Donuts, something like that. I said, "Hey, I need 20 dozen donuts." The guy goes, "What?" I'm like, "I'm going to wait, obviously." Fill up my car, come back. My supervisor was like, "Hey, where'd that guy go?" I'm like, "I don't know. He gave me $100. I got change for him." He goes, "Okay, hang on." Guy comes walking back, said, "Here's all your donuts. Here's your money." He goes, "And you keep the money." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is great, right?" So guy takes all the donuts. My supervisor, "Hey, is that guy cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, why? Who was he?" That was Eddie Van Halen's father.
Wow.
Hey, can I chime in? 2 things. One is thoughts to EV and family. He's obviously going through stuff.
Yep.
So we're obviously thinking of him. And Butch.
Yes, sir.
The Dallas Cup was where I kind of made my bones. So thank you.
What year was that, Raber?
96 was my first year with Castle.
I was
Okay.
Maybe 95, 96, but that's when I went down. We were the Raleigh Caps back then, but then Castle.
Yep.
Who was your coach?
Carl Fleming.
Carl Fleming.
Whoa. Yeah.
He's in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he was my coach at UNCG before I transferred.
Okay. Yeah,
All right.
he sent us a couple players the last couple of years out of Houston. So.
Yep.
Yep.
Flea's still around, but thank you so much for building that, because that's where I got found.
Well,
which is really cool.
I
great story. Yeah.
I didn't build it. I just played in it. But a lot, it's a heck of a deal, really. And
yeah, absolutely. All right, Ryan. So I surprised you with the security shirt.
Here's your list.
All right. So I did it just so you know, sort of like the final, the March Madness, right? I had the 5 in, the 5 on the bubble. So that's my list.
This is your list. This is what you sent over.
Exactly.
What's the last one?
What's that? The last one is the 5 in.
The last one, it's cut off.
A long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
But you got to go up a little, Ryan, because the versions are totally different, So as you can see, I'm a lot of piano, a lot of saxophone, a lot of harp.
Let me get rid of the. Here we go.
There we go.
And get rid of the ticker.
If you typed in on YouTube AC/DC lyrics, you're going to hear a totally different song, which sort of John Bowie. This is sort of funny, sort of Ryan, you'd relate to this too. It sounds like almost like the house, the school House of Rock.
House of Rock, yeah.
House of Rock, sort of playing it.
Yep.
And then the Detour version is really interesting, guys, because it's with horns, it's with Lizzie Hale, and Robin Zander from Cheap Trick, and a couple guys from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, yeah.
Love me some Guns N' Roses. So
The
one that I have a question about, in all seriousness.
Okay.
In the bubble.
In the bubble.
In the bubble. Last Chance, Shooting Star.
Oh my God. Incredible, right?
Absolutely phenomenal song.
Yeah.
Now, AC/DC Back in Black is my second favorite album of all time.
Respect.
No doubt, Raves.
So it's Nirvana Unplugged, AC/DC Back in Black. Okay?
Okay.
But I truly believe with all of my heart that Last Chance Shooting Star is better than A Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll.
Okay.
Like, just my opinion, obviously.
Okay.
That's the one, like, I looked at that and was like, oh, man, how does that not get on there? And then I looked at your list and went, oh, because there's AC/DC on his list.
The name of the song is so good that you have to have it on the list. It's like having a Scottish center back. You don't give a shit how good he is. You just want him to go, come on, lads!
Yeah.
Right?
And just hit people.
And
hit people.
It doesn't matter.
Like, he's wiry.
Long way he's
wiry.
Be a ginger and hit people.
And short, adult medium shorts. But A Long Way to the Top, you want to rock and roll. The name alone puts it on the list. I full respect for that.
All
right, Ripcord. Ryan, you're up.
Boa's list.
Yep. Here we go.
All right, so my 5 favorite Liverpool games of all time are the 86, 89, and 06 FA Cup finals, and the 05 European Cup final. They were down 3-0 at halftime, and the second leg of the Barcelona game where they were down 3-0 on aggregate. And but see, that was easy. But the list of songs was fucking hard. I've been working hard on this all week. So number 5 is Pink Floyd Fearless. The only reason it's number 5 and not number 1 is because they went to Anfield and recorded them singing You'll Never Walk Alone, and it plays at the end of the song.
That's right.
And it's on the 1971 album called Meddle, Meddle.
I have that album.
Great record. And if you do, Butch, it's worth $1,900.
I have it.
Wait, you have the actual album, like the LP?
I do.
Oh, my God.
It is a great record. I mean, no matter, Number 4 is a band called Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians. And the only reason that they're on my list is because of the name of the band, but they do a version of You'll Never Walk Alone. The name of the band is Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians, and they sing like religious stuff in 1952. That's number 4.
Jerry and the Pacemakers.
Number 3, we're getting there.
Okay.
Number
Oh,
3, are you guys familiar with the band the Alabama Shakes?
Yes, absolutely.
Brittany Howard,
Yes.
what a voice. She did a version of You'll Never Walk Alone, which is my 3rd favorite song of all time.
Are you serious?
That is
She
wonderful. They did a Johnny Walker whiskey ad. Yep, so look that one up. That's wonderful. So Brittany Howard singing You Never Walk Alone is the 3rd best song ever written. Number
I
2,
don't think that they're on Spotify. You're killing me right now.
number 2 song of all time is Elvis Presley singing You'll Never Walk Alone.
No, it's right there.
1971, he did a lot of people don't know this, but he was a freak show, but Elvis was a big religious gospel singer. He really wanted to do gospel songs.
Yes, he
Black
was.
Christmas albums, yeah. And the Colonel wouldn't let him do it. So, but Elvis Presley singing
Because it wasn't going to make the Colonel any money.
That's right.
And the number 1 best song ever fucking written, ever played anything is Jerry and the Pacemakers, 1963, You'll Never Walk Alone.
Yep.
All right.
I
They
have
just
that.
put a plaque in Anfield.
I have
for
that album
Jerry
too,
Cur-
John.
Yes.
I
You
have-
have that one?
Yeah.
They just put a plaque in Anfield about 6 months ago for Jerry Marsden. Now they didn't write it. It came from a musical called Carousel, written by Rodgers and Hammerstein.
That's right.
But Jerry and the Pacemakers made it famous, and Liverpool were the first club in the world to sing at games. A lot of people don't know that either because of the Beatles.
Yep.
And they would sing "Love, Love Me Do." They would say "Bone, Bone, Gum Down the Wing," that kind of stuff. And that's what it started. Then they started singing it in Celtic, and they sing it in, I think, South America somewhere. But those are the top 5 best written songs of all time, right there.
Well,
Now, see-
and also
Okay.
the top 5 floodgate operator songs are
Yeah,
pretty good.
we should do that sometime.
Yeah. I do have that list actually already
Because they-
started. I figured that
but-
would come up later.
So,
Yeah,
so
but,
John,
Evie's oldest kid is
Here,
a Blue Fest
I
fan.
want to fight John Boa on this one though. So why does Yo-Yo Ma's version of You'll Never Walk Alone not make your list?
He doesn't sing. It's not a song.
Good
Fuck him.
job.
Fuck
Good
him and
job.
Mozart.
But-
Fuck that Mozart,
but
Beethoven
Kath-
people. Nah.
Catherine Stott
Give me
did
Glenn
sing it with
Campbell
him.
every week.
now I got a question.
Now,
John.
what about Marcus Mumford?
I like Marcus Mumford.
Okay. Josh
He
Groban?
was on the list.
Josh Groban?
He would never be on the list.
And
That
also,
would be like
this
me
will be-
putting Roy Keane on my top 10.
this will be cut out. But Butch, I have a puppy, and I heard your dog, and I was like giving me anxiety. I was like, "Fuck!"
Yeah.
Like my puppy's going nuts. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. So,
Yeah. Sorry about that. So
No, it's fine. It's fine.
My puppy's going insane. He's literally bearing down the door.
yeah.
Let me in there. Let me in.
Yep.
But there
All
are
right.
a lot of versions of it all going on. There's hundreds.
Yep.
There is an entire playlist
Oh, yeah.
on Spotify of different versions of that song.
Righteous Brothers
So-
did it on the Ed Sullivan Show. There's religious versions. It's a wonderful song.
Well, a lot of people don't know it's written by an American.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote it for a musical. That's right.
musical. Yep. That's right.
Now, bonus points if you know what musical it was.
Carousel. 1948,
Yes.
52, something like that.
Yes. Excellent.
A
Good
lot of
stuff.
people think it was My Fair Lady, but they would be wrong.
They would be wrong. You're correct. What other wonderful songs came from Carousel? Anybody know? And then we'll move on from there. But
Is it All I Want Is a Room Upstairs? Is that one? Or is that My Fair Lady?
I think that might be My Fair Lady.
I knew it being gay, so I had to. I don't really know my musicals yet.
No. I figured that if you were a fan of Carousel, being you would know Blow High, Blow Low. That was the song I was going for there because it's you.
That's what Liverpool was doing yesterday.
Right. It's okay. That's what Manchester United did against Liverpool last week. So
Van Dyke looked like he was a baby deer on ice skates on a frozen pond. It was awful.
Okay, I think that's the close.
And on that note, we will mention one more soccer piece before we go. NWSL expansion, Utah Royals will return in 2024 for those that follow the women's game. MLS you're not going to believe who's in first place out in the West. Anybody know off the top of their head?
Not
Vancouver.
It's not St. Louis because St. Louis lost to Cincinnati, but St.
No, they didn't.
Louis.
St. Louis didn't play.
Sorry, not St. Louis.
Yeah.
Seattle, not Seattle. It's St. Louis.
Oh, it's St. Louis.
It is St. Louis. They are 3-0-0 with
So-
8 goals for, 4 goals against, and a total of 9 points
This is their first year.
in
so
their
sorry-
first season.
Sorry about this, but they're in the West.
They're in the West. Yes,
Till
they are
next
in the
year.
West. So last year,
They
last
actually have
year,
an arc to the west.
Yeah.
It's an arc.
Okay.
so last year Nashville was in the West, and now Nashville has moved back to the East
East. Okay.
because St. Louis is in the West.
Yeah.
And then when the next club that happens to be on the MLS website already winds up being announced,
So,
St.
Sacramento?
Louis will probably move
Las
to the
Vegas.
East. It is not. Yes, it is not Sacramento.
So
Las
what do they
Vegas.
do? Do they,
is currently
they just play
listed.
everybody twice and that's it?
Okay.
No. The schedule's really weird this year.
I know they changed the playoffs, right?
Yeah, they changed
yeah.
the playoff format. The scheduling is a little bit different than it has been. They're trying to balance it a little bit more, but I don't know that it matters.
Why don't they just do it like baseball and have an American League and a National League and play home and away on one side and just one game on the other?
Well, they're trying to schedule like you have a guaranteed rival and then you just match up.
Yeah, they're trying to do these rivalry games and force some rivalries like Atlanta and Charlotte, which we already talked about. I think Nashville and Cincinnati will be a good matchup this year. Bones, Columbus Crew are in that 9th playoff spot if the playoffs were to start today, 3 matches in. They're
Is
sitting
there
at
a
number
Columbus
9.
Cincinnati rivalry?
Absolutely.
Is it good?
It is good because I F the Crew is what I usually say whenever. And I actually hit on a regular basis. We call them Crew 19 because Crew 96 now plays in Austin.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Rabes.
I would like to do a remote on the Open Cup when the Riverhounds go to play.
I'm out there. That's a great idea.
Columbus.
Let's do that.
Go to where? Where do they go, Rabes?
I think the Riverhounds are going to play Columbus at some point. Bush
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
Yep.
And Ryan,
Yeah.
cut all this out, by the way.
No,
Um,
no. Like people need to know. Like we chat about this stuff. Like I think it's an interesting once the Open Cup stuff, really gets rolling. We'll talk a lot about the Open Cup because I think it's the most underrated tournament in our country.
It is.
we also have a remote in Cincinnati.
Don't get me
that
started. Yep.
is going to be good.
Are you talking about the Chivas game?
No, did he talk to you
Or
guys
the-
about that? Yeah.
Not
so
yet.
cut, yeah, look, we'll take this offline.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. Well, we're going to wrap the show up for this episode. Butch, thank you very much
Thank
for
you for
joining
having
us.
me. It was fun. Really.
Really
appreciate
appreciate
Thank you, Butch.
taking the
You're
time.
welcome. Good luck with the show, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, and we'll
Your
catch.
athletic director will get a copy. Don't worry.
Oh, I can't wait. Just
Yeah,
send it-
because Bone will send it to everybody that's in his phone list.
yes.
Just boop, 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 boop.
And at your school.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
No,
we
appreciate
go.
you taking the time to join us, and
No,
we'll
I
definitely
really
send
enjoyed
it out.
Fun, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening and watching the Three Old Goalies. Be sure to join us next time. Like, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our great content. You can follow us on Instagram or Twitter. Can't get enough of the Three Old Goalies? Be sure to check us out at www.threeoldgoalies.com.